Hi, it's Splinterverse. Welcome to another episode of D&D New Releases, where we offer first impressions of new third-party products for Dungeons & Dragons. We cover a selection of titles from Dungeon Masters Guild and DriveThruRPG each week. The titles are presented in alphabetical order by site, and all of them are linked in the video description. Purchasing the books using those links helps the channel, but you can also support us by purchasing one of our best-selling books. Our newest release, Swarms of the Multiverse, offers over 70 brand new creatures, including their associated swarms. Plus, you get instructions on how to make your own balanced swarms, and lots of bonus materials such as 4 new demiplanes. We've got lineages suitable for any setting, as well as optional lineage rules in our Van Richten's Librum of Lineages. With our Potions Unlocked book, we have over 100 pages of material to take your potions to the next level in your game. Our Feywild Companion offers 150 pages of Feywild fun for players and DMs. Also, our book, Fizban's Vault of Draconic Secrets, contains over 50 pages of dragon-themed player options, including a subclass for each class and much more. Please support the channel by purchasing one of our books using the links in the video description. Before we talk about this week's new releases, let's talk about our exclusive discount this week. It's for the Scion, which is a brand new class where it's all about divine agents that wield the power of the gods. And it's a best copper seller from Daryl Dominguez. It's normally $1.99, but we're bringing it to you for 44% off of that. So just over $1 to get this awesome class. It's 24 pages. And it says, what is a Scion? Scions are frontline characters that wield the might and power of the words of creation, which are translated as sigils to use by mortals. As an intelligence-based class, they can use sigils to empower themselves or cast spells along with making powerful strikes with weapons they wield. A true Gish class that with the right choice of sigils, they can play powerful tanks, strikers, or even ranged spellcasters. Remember, your class, your choice. So it's a very versatile class, giving you the option to be a tank role, a DPS role, whatever you want to be, basically. You can find a way to make it work depending on your selection of the sigils that are associated with the Scion. And so it's got sacred tasks, which are the subclasses for the Scion. So one of them is the Acolyte. It says their task is to command and support the front line of any battlefield. So that would be probably more of like a tank subclass. Then you've got the Avenger. They lurk in the shadows using ranged weapons, hunting down their foes. So that's a ranged, more of a DPS damage dealing style. You've got the Inquisitor, stoic defenders who will stand before any enemy willing to attack them. Mages, scions who wield powerful spells that they can blast away enemies. And then the Sin Eater. There are those who know that to strike down the enemies of the church, you must sacrifice something. So that one sounds really fun too. I like that there's a little bit of a different flavor for each of the subclasses. So of course you get all the information on the class. You get 2 new spells. You get a feat to aid sigils. You get 5 subclasses, of course, 3 new backgrounds, and then 40 plus sigils. So you have the Eldritch Invocations for warlocks. You have these sigils for the Scion, so pretty cool to have these little add-on things for the class. I love things like that because it really, I think, makes the class so distinct and different, just depending on the little things that you pick. One Scion can be completely different from another one. So looking inside, you get to see the whole book. So again, no reason not to check this out, especially with the 44% discount we're bringing to you here. So you can see they go through the class and the subclasses, and then later you get into, after you go through the sigils, you get spells, feats, and backgrounds. So just a lot on offer for a class. A lot of times with the class, you only get the class and the subclasses, and that's it. This has a lot more than that. So I'm just going to scroll through quickly so you can see kind of all the different things happening in here. Tons of great artwork. Really gives you a feel like this is like a Wizards publication. So you've got this whole new spells section. So really, really fun look to it. Let's go back up and zoom in, and we'll read a little bit of the introduction to the Scion. So it says, hidden from prying eyes, the high elf stares at her target from the rafters and places a small sigil on him. The moment he sits down, an unseen force pushes him towards the window violently. As the elf drops to the floor with elegance, a dark, shadowy blade materializes on her hand. The man has heard the stories and knows that this is his end. Those who dare speak ill of the church rarely live long enough to see the sun again. So this Scion has used a sigil on her hand to basically make an attack and end this enemy. So really cool. And then there's religious origins, magic and the gods, understanding magic. It says Scions do not have natural spellcasting abilities. They depend on learning the long dead language of the gods to become more powerful than ordinary mortals. As such, they constantly study strange texts that contain symbols that seem to make no sense to people who are not Scions. Studying these texts gives Scions the feeling that one day they could, in theory, reshape reality to their whims. So it gives you a table of magical studies. So the first one is wizards have their spell books. You have tons of scrolls with weird symbols on them, constantly experimenting with sigils. So yeah, that'd be a fun thing to role play. Gives you some martial studies, seekers of knowledge, and then here's the quick build information, the usual table. And in terms of sigils, you get sigil slots, it looks like at level 2, and you start with 3 and you work all the way up to 9. So by the time you get to 20th level, you can have 9 different sigils that you can work with. So you got a fighting style. It says at 2nd level you adopt a particular style of fighting or channeling your magic as your specialty. So you have to choose one of these, and one of them is Arcane Warrior. You learn 2 cantrips of your choice from the wizard spell list. They count as Scion spells for you. And then you can replace them when you gain a level, or you can do Divine Fist. Your unarmed strikes count as simple melee weapons with which you are proficient. They deal bludgeoning damage on a hit and have the finesse and light properties. But at 6th level, your unarmed strikes are considered magical, so you can overcome resistance and immunity. Really cool. And then you've got your sigil slots, casting spells, how to calculate the DC for your sigil saves, just so much cool stuff going on. Here's a Divine Center. It says you channel the power of the words of creation to place a sigil on a creature to mark it as an enemy of your church. As a bonus action, you can spend a sigil slot to place this sigil on a creature you can see within 60 feet of you for 1 minute. While a creature has a sigil on it, it is considered a sealed creature. You can only have 1 creature sealed at a time. This feature counts as a sigil. Whenever you hit the sealed creature with a weapon attack, you choose to do one of the following. You can deal an additional amount of damage that is necrotic or radiant. And then you can consume the sigil to deal an additional amount of necrotic or radiant damage equal to your intelligence modifier plus 1d8 for each level of the sigil slot spent. So some different options once you place that sigil. And that's looks like that's an early level ability. Because it's at 3rd level, you get Sacred Hunter. The knowledge you have gathered from books about the enemies of the church allows you to better track them down. As a result, whenever you make a perception or survival check, you gain bonus to the check equal to your int modifier. And yeah, there's just so much cool stuff. Let's look at Stasis Censure. So by 18th level, the power of your Divine Censure overwhelms the enemies of the church as the words of creation shift time around them. When you target a creature with your Divine Censure, it must succeed on the Wisdom saving throw or be affected by this feature while it is sealed. The affected creature's speed is halved, can't take reactions on its turn. It can use either an action or a bonus action, but not both. So yeah, you can pretty much limit your enemy, which is cool. And then you get into the sacred tasks. We talked about the Acolyte a little bit. You got the Magus, Sin Eater, and then you get into all the sigils. So let's look at some of the sigils. So the 1st level, Sigil of Arcana. When you cast the sigil, you must choose a spell with a level up that of the sigil slot spent. So it has to be a level higher, I guess. The spell is cast at the level of the sigil slot spent without using material or somatic components. Additionally, the casting time and duration of the sigil is that of the chosen spell. Oh, okay. So then there's a list. You can choose Identify, Counterspell, Dispel Magic, or Reflection. Okay, very cool. And then you've got Sigil of Conquest, which is the 2nd level. It says your presence is magically enhanced, allowing you to force a creature to kneel before you. When you cast the sigil, sigil, you can force a creature you can see within range to make a charisma saving throw. On a failure, the creature takes 1d8 plus your intelligence modifier. Psychic damage, is knocked prone, and its speed is reduced to 0. At the end of each of its turns, the target can make another save. And then sealed, when you target a sealed creature with this, it can only make one attack on its turn, and at higher levels, when you cast this spell using a 3rd level sigil slot or higher, the damage you deal increases by 1d8 for each slot above the 2nd. So yeah, they have some upcasting to them as well. But I mean, just you can see all the fun little sigils that you can make. I mean, so many of them. I think there's 40 some in here. And then you get new spells like Glyph of Judgment, Reflection, feats like Sigil Adept, and then the backgrounds are Lore Keeper and Order Dissident and True Believer. Those seem really fun. So True Believer, it says, for years people have been seeking for their true purpose, hoping to find meaning in their mundane lives. Everyone except you. You have found something to aspire to, and by following a certain creed, you hope to become better than those whose life is without purpose, be it God, a king, political leader, philosophical movement, or even church official. You have found something you believe in blindly and will put your life on the line for it, no matter what others think you know. They will never understand your devotion. So that could be a fun thing to play. Like you're in on a secret. You've discovered something. All these other people are unsure, but you're certain. And so you've got features, and then of course characteristics like personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws, etc. And then there's even Epic Scion if you want to go beyond level 20. So if you're playing any of the Epic systems that are out there, third-party systems, you can use those. So I just feel like this book is just packed with so much stuff. I can't believe its normal price is $1.99, and then it's going to be 44% off. So you're going to pay just over $1 for this, and you're going to get spells, you're going to get backgrounds. I mean, you can use those backgrounds separate of this class, right? So just to get the spells, the background, that alone is worth over $1 to me. And then you've got options for epic play. You've got a full class with such versatility and a beautiful cover and nice artwork and layout to enjoy. So I think you need to grab this while it's on sale. These discounts don't last forever, so you want to take advantage of it while you can. It's going to be the first link in the timestamps under Scion, or you can go to the pinned comment and see the alphabetical list. It'll be there under Scion as well. So you got to grab this before the discount is gone. It's under Scion. Give it a click. Next, we have Chosen of Dukagsh, Scro of Wildspace by Thieves Cant Games and Evan Jackson. It is $3.95 for 12 pages, and it says the Scro returned to Spelljammer. Centuries ago, a terrible conflict engulfed the multiverse, devastating entire worlds and leaving countless dead as it spread to every known system. At its end, the goblinoid feats were all but destroyed, scattered and defeated by the elves. One group of orcs, however, escaped annihilation and emerged from this war with a new purpose. From the ashes, they built a new society, the likes of which had never been seen before. These orcs were known as the Scro, a unique and militaristic people with a complex history and culture. Whether as allies or antagonists, the lore contained herein is all you need to bring the Scro Armada to your Spelljammer game. So you get lore on the Scro, including their origin, history, etc. You get 5 new Scro NPC stat blocks, rules and options for creating Scro player characters, complete statistics and full deck plans for the Scro Mantis ship, shearing attacks, a new optional ship-to-ship combat rule. So that's cool. And they have the Scro Marine, War Captain, War Priest, etc. And I love the name of the Scro because it's basically orcs backwards. So I love that you could just turn that around and it's a whole new sub race. Really cool, funny. Anyway, in here you've got the introduction. So you get all that lore, then you get the military units and all those NPCs, and then the races here later where you can create the player characters, as well as the Mantis ship. So the Mantis ship alone I think is going to be good to have, especially with deck plans, because there just aren't a lot of deck plans that have been released officially for Spelljammer, so having more of those is good. So you get the introduction, the society, and the coming war. It says as Scro Marines form the background of the Scro military units and ships' crews. They are trained from birth to be relentless fighters and unshakable. or they're trained to be relentless fighters and unshakable in the face of overwhelming odds. They are issued spike leather armor, which affords both protection and agility in ship-to-ship combat. Most favor axes as weapons, which they wield in both hands during boarding actions. And so this one is a CR3. So you're going to have various military units in here that are going to be different CRs, so that's also helpful. Even just, you could randomly encounter a Scro Marine. You don't have to encounter their whole ship. You know, there's going to be ports in Wildspace, right, that you go to, and so having just some of these, oh, I need a CR3 enemy, you know, you could have a Scro Marine just sort of doing a secret mission at some port, and you know, you could have a battle in an alley or something with a Scro Marine that's trying to steal something, right? So even if you don't want them to face the whole Mantis ship or whatever, having these stat blocks for characters for Wildspace is really cool. So as far as their society, though, it says every Scro on the world of Dukagsh is born into the highly regimented environment. From birth, they are instilled with the ideas of duty and service by war priests who continue the teachings of their great leader and maintain his vision for the future. As a martial culture, Scro value indications of courage and tactical skill equally in the selection of their leaders. Advancement is generally earned through trial rather than a given, with those who prove ineffective swiftly replaced by their subordinates. All Scro have a place in the common service, however, and their training reinforces a willingness to make great sacrifices when called upon to do so. So you can play with that culture. If you have a player character, even, they could maybe view everything that way. So if somebody messes up in the party, they could be like, oh, it's okay, you know, even the common need to, you know, have a place in the greater goal here, you know. Whatever it is, right? You could just weave that into the backstory of your character, that they have this martial culture, and so that could be fun to role play with that race or whatever. But basically, they're kind of like you know, Klingons, warlike. You know, they like battle and being trained for battle, being ready for battle. So pretty fun. Like the cover, like the concept and the variety of what's in here. And it's only $3.95. So look for it in the links below under Chosen of Dukagsh and give it a click. Next, we have Cursed Trove 2, 5 cursed magic items for your campaign from J.W. Rose, 99 cents for the 4-page book. And it's got basically, 5 cursed magic items, and it gives you printable magic cards too, so you can print them out like is shown here. So you can hand that to your player, or you could just use them as a reference if you're the DM. One of them is the 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬, a chaotic weapon that bounces around like a bat out of hell. And then you've got the Shadow Diamond. It says, hey DM, have you ever counterspelled a PC's Revivify spell? Well, this could take it to a whole new level. So let's take a look inside. You get to see 2 of those 4 pages. So we get to see the Eldritch Saber and the 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬. So let's read about the Eldritch Saber. It's a weapon, any sword, very rare, requires attunement. It grants a +2 bonus to attack and damage rolls made with it. It also has the following properties. When one of these properties is used, it can't be used again until the next dawn. So maddening attack, when you hit with a melee attack using the sword, the creature takes additional 2d8 psychic damage. Grasping attack, when you hit with a melee attack using the sword, a sticky tentacle erupts from the blade and grabs the target. The creature must make a strength saving throw or be restrained. Black lightning, you can use an action to cause a bolt of black lightning to leap from the sword's tip in a line that is 5 feet wide and 120 feet long. Each creature in that line must make a dex saving throw, taking lightning damage on a failed save or half as much on a successful one. And then if they fail, they can't use reactions. And then Noxious Mist, you can use an action to cause the sword to emit a cloud of toxic gas at a point you can see within 90 feet of you. The cloud is a 20-foot wide sphere that spreads around corners, and its area is heavily obscured. Each creature that is completely within the cloud at the start of the turn must make a con saving throw or take poison damage, and the cloud lasts for 1 minute, and a strong wind can disperse it. But then there's also a curse, right? These are all cursed items, so there's a far realm curse on this one. When you attune to this weapon, you become cursed by it and cannot willingly end your attunement to it. While cursed in this way, whenever you roll a 1 on an attack roll made with this weapon, you must make a Charisma saving throw. On a failed save, you gain 1 level of exhaustion and suffer a random short-term madness effect as described in Chapter 8 of the Dungeon Master's Guide. A remove curse spell can immediately end your attunement to this weapon. So yeah, you can't really be attuned to it without having to deal with this curse. So just, you hope you don't roll a 1 with it. But yeah, that's really fun. And then you can also come here and read the 𝘬𝙤𝙤 before you purchase. But 99 cents to get 5 of these items. Pretty good deal. You get little cards for them. Great art in here. So I definitely think it's worth it. So check it out. It's under Curse Trove 2 in the links below. Give it a click. Next, we have Eoth Khalstan's Focused Encyclopedia of Draconic Beings by Daniel K. And let's see, I can't really read that name. It says the girl Tate. Okay, it's the small font. It was hard to read. So Daniel K. and the girl Tate. It's $14.99 for 289 pages. It's a lot of pages, so definitely justifies the price. But yeah, that's a lot. You're going to get a lot of pages for that money, so that's good. So you've got introduction, a brief summary of what to expect, and then you get magic items, dragon options. So you've got alternative traits and actions to swap for any dragon that exists outside of the supplement or within it. So you can swap that Frightful Presence for an aura that exhausts creatures around the dragon, or you can swap it with an aura that gives disadvantage on wisdom saving throws due to the sheer awesomeness of the dragon. You've got hordes and hooks, so tables to roll on so you can make encounters with dragons more memorable. You get personality traits and ideals for true dragons within the supplement. You can have it says have a howling dragon that shouts all the time, or an axial dragon with a nervous tick that forces it to say talk. You can also find plot hooks for these dragons, which allows you to use your favorite dragons multiple times in different scenarios. And then you've got the dragon bestiary, which over 60 different draconic creatures are inside of that, and you get 170 stat blocks. So tons of stuff. So you can find an additional chromatic gem and metallic dragon alongside dragons that hail from each of the outer planes. So tons of stuff in this book. I mean, $14.99. You get so much in it. And let's take a look at the table of contents here. So you can see all the different magic items, everything from belts of draconic constitution down to the worm scroll helm. You get hordes and hooks. So all these different types of dragons. And then the bestiary, which includes air drakes, astral dragons, beast dragons, Elysian dragons, mirage dragons, radiant dragons, tons of new draconic creatures, right? So you can always use more of those. And then, of course, a list of them by CR, and then reference spells also get their own section. So I just think there's just going to be tons of useful stuff in here. I mean, even if you pull out just a few things that you use, a few creatures, a few items, a few, you create some personality traits, or you swap out some of the traits of the dragon that you're running. I mean, you could make some real memorable encounters. Dragons are fun to run, but if you have a table that's full of players that play all the time, they're going to get old. So mixing it up a little bit with a book like this could be really fun. So you got the Cloak of Mysterious Emergence. It says this cloak was fashioned from multiple layers of fine silk with a row of glittering red scales. The cloak has 3 charges. While wearing the cloak, you can use an action to expend 1 charge from the cloak and cast Dimension Door. You can instead expend all 3 charges to allow up to 5 other creatures to step through the door with you. The cloak regains its expended charges daily at dawn. When you cast Dimension Door with this cloak, you step through a ghostly apparition of a dragon's open maw that appears next to you. This dragon's head also appears in the location to which you teleport, where you step out of the maw. So pretty thematic appearance to it as well. I like that they added that. So you get the Draconomicon as an item, Mask of the North Wind, Prismatic Dragon Figurine of Wondrous Power. I mean, just tons of stuff. And then in the 16-page preview, we're also seeing some of the dragon customization. So Awesome Presence was mentioned earlier, but Elemental Aura is another option. So it says here, young or older dragons only, And this elemental aura replaces Frightful Presence. So you take that out of the stat block, and then you would put elemental aura in its place. So it says, any creature of the dragon's choice that starts its turn within a certain distance from the dragon takes damage of the same type as its breath weapon's damage. If the dragon has two options that each deal a different type of damage, the DM chooses which of the damage types it deals when creating the dragon. The distance of the aura and the amount of the damage it deals both depend on the age of the dragon. So here is the little table, and it's got the age of the dragon, and it shows you the distance of the aura. So a young one's only going to do 15 feet with a 1d10 for the damage, but a great worm would do 40 feet distance with 11 or 2d10 damage. So pretty cool. Good way to work it in and make it seem different for each age. I like that the author is thinking about that, because it wouldn't make sense for these to be the same power level for every age of dragon, because they get more powerful as they age, right? So then you've got different types of dragons where there's special abilities. So looking at the gold dragon, powerful and just gold dragons are the strongest of the metallic dragons, and their options reflect that they devour their wealth, so are able to incorporate the melted metal and gems into their fire breath. The golden touch option is extremely powerful and should only be used against higher tier parties. So one of the things that it can get is an Abjuring Ward, which is a reaction. When damaged, the dragon uses the reaction to reduce the damage by 20. So yeah, that could make it take longer to take it down. Then Golden Touch, which is an action. The dragon can now only make one claw attack as part of its multi-attack action. When the dragon hits a creature with its claw attack, the target must succeed on a con saving throw. If the saving throw fails by 10 or more, the creature is instantly turned to gold and petrified. Otherwise, a creature that fails the save begins to turn to gold and is restrained. The restrained creature must repeat the saving throw at the end of its next turn, becoming petrified on a failure or ending the effect on a success. The golden petrification lasts until the creature is freed by the Greater Restoration spell or other magic. And then it's got Molten Coins. When the dragon rolls damage for its fire breath, only half the damage is fire damage, the other half is bludgeoning, as the Molten Coins also spew out in the flames. And then it can restrain some creatures with that. And then Radiant Soul, the creature gains resistance to radiant damage. So good ways to mix it up. You can use one of these things, you can use all of these things, but I like that each type of published dragon is included, as well as some of the ones in this book. And then you've got a whole layer customization section. I mean, we spend the whole episode just reading through so much, because there's just so much packed into this 289 pages. So here, they've got different rooms, like a Cavern of Babbling. When a creature enters this room, it must make a wisdom saving throw on a failure. The creature babbles incoherently and can't be understood through verbal communication while in the room. To cast a spell with a verbal component, the creature must first succeed on a wisdom saving throw to form the correct syllables. When an affected creature ends its turn outside of the room, it can repeat the saving throw, ending the effect on itself on a success. So these are all different little rooms and things that can be in the lair. And you could even use some of these with other creatures. I mean, that Cavern of Babbling could be, in a Beholder's lair or some other creature's lair. It doesn't have to be a dragon. So I think there's a lot of reusability in this book. Even some of those traits we looked at with the dragons, you could twist some of those and put them on other creatures. The magic items can certainly be with dragons or not, right? So you have so many options when you get 289 pages of material. And it's got a fun cover, so I think you should check it out. It's under Eoth, Khalstan's Focused Encyclopedia in the links below. Give it a click. Next we have Garnet Roadhouse, A Twist of Fey by the Pyronide Press and Jared Bacon, $4.99 for 53 pages. And it says, it was born from the excitement of Swindler movies such as the Ocean series, Italian Job, 21, and Heist. Find a contact, assemble your ragtag group of adventurers, infiltrate and gather intel on the mark, get the goods, and split. Can the party devise and execute the perfect heist, or will Lady Luck manage to turn the tables in a twist of fate? Let's find out if the house always does win. Choose from one of 4 insiders to act as your contact for the job. Let the party explore the dazzling splendor of the Garnet Roadhouse in the charming town of Mephisera. All work and no play make Spurt a dull kobold. Peruse the immersive food, drink, and spa menus, and take some time to rest your weary adventuring legs. It also includes new templates to stack on top of NPC stat blocks to have them feel more thematically appropriate. So it's got full breakdown of Mephasara, the town, full location breakdown of the Garnet Roadhouse, 14-page adventure, templates to alter the NPCs, 6 casino game rules, 6 new creature stat blocks, 3 subclasses, 1 for Artificer, Monk, and Sorcerer, and then 11 new heist-related feats. So you can see some of the artwork and layout here. So going inside, you've got the table of contents. So quite a good amount of stuff. I mean, 53 pages is no joke. So you've got the introduction, so the briefing. You get to see 10 of the pages here in the preview. Places of interest. And then here's the ne'er-do-well templates. The key part of this adventure is the composition of your team. The combined skills and the varied talents can help change the difficulty of the adventure. The standard guard or commoner are simply not thematic enough for this high scenario. In order to ramp up the tension a little, add one of these templates to the standard stat block of any creature or NPC. So that's pretty cool. So there's Arcanite, needs something built, crafted, forged, or magic, to look no further. Arcanites are outlandish hobbyists that are into arcane reagents, potions, and explosions. So you change their int score to 16. Their proficiencies are added that are arcana and investigation, and they can build anything that they have the resource, material components for, basically. And then there's other ones like cut purse, mask, tailor, etc. So this could be really fun. I like that. Simple changes to stat blocks to differentiate. But you're seeing, we're going through all the different locations in this preview. Really easy to read. I like how the read aloud is really called out in the formatting here. But let's go back up and read a little bit of the history of the region and things like that. So it says, a portion of the region that is heavily connected to the Feywild. The two realms overlap, meaning the flora and fauna reflect features of both planes. It has been several generations since the two planes fully bled into one another, but it is increasingly common today to find folks from the Feywild who call Mephasara home, or Mephasara. So, yeah, all the Wild Beyond the Witchlight stuff that's come out, all the Feywild stuff that people have published, you can incorporate that here, because you could just encounter a Fey being in the middle of Mephasara. So it was founded in the coniferous region with forests and rocky hills. The town is bursting at the seams with energetic townsfolk eagerly beckoning newcomers to spend their coin on wares. Mephasara is packed with merchants, artisans, and other passionate, talented people. And you've got, for example, the Beached Slag Quarry, which is a series of establishments a half day's travel outside of Mephasara that members of the Dredgers Union consider home when working on site. The Blanched Slag Quarry has a smaller population than Mephasara, but is still considered a small settlement. So you got another place you can go to. And then here's some of the places of interest in Mephasara. So we just read about the Dredgers Union. The headquarters for the shift work schedules and commissions for the quarry outside of town. They mine based on contracts, train apprentice miners, and even take special requests for unique resources. Miners either coming off their shift or preparing to head out on one are marked by mining equipment they wear. An off-shift miner is subtler, but is distinguished by a crest showing an armored dire badger. So maybe you need to recruit a miner for, whatever the heist is going to be. Or maybe you need to go to the mine for some reason, right? So, and then you've got all these different people in here. And then we looked at those ne'er-do-well templates. And then here's the whole compound. So the Garnet compound, it says a compound surrounded by large 20-foot-high walls made of perfectly laid stone surrounding the compound. An occasional sentry is visible patrolling along the top of the walls, watching over the travelers entering the gate. And then it talks about that a little bit more, but just tons of places to go. I mean, they've really detailed so many places, like the Garnet Bistro, the Dryad's Glade, the lobby of the guest house. I mean, you could use this location as a base for a number of things. If you want to get people into Wild Beyond the Witchlight or have Fey adventures, I mean, this area's got the Feywild bleeding into it, so you can have them start in Mephasara and then end up falling into the Feywild, or however you want to get them there. Or they could go back and forth. Maybe they have to do some things where they have to go back and forth between the two realms, and there's risks with that because time is different in the Feywild. So that could be really interesting to have them go in and then come back out, and Mephasara's aged quite a bit. So lots of options. And then I like movies like Ocean's 11 and these other sort of heist stories. So having a whole heist adventure in here and casino game rules and so many things. I think it's worth it. So check it out. It's under Garnet Roadhouse in the links below. Give it a click. Next, we have the Inquisitor, a homebrew class from Matthew Miller. Suggested price of $10 on Pay What You Want. It's 10 pages. It says it's a cleric adjacent class inspired by classic witch hunters and the assassins from Assassin's Creed. The class is a half-caster with invocation-like customizations which can help you play how you'd like. Included with the class itself are 6 new spells that are unique to this class. It can have interesting role-playing implications in your setting with the existence of secretive orders and unseen agendas. So, sounds like a lot of fun. So, you get to see 3 of those 10 pages in the preview. So you get to see just a little bit of the class features, but I love the artwork on the cover. I love the artwork inside. All goes together. Looks, like the same artist did all of it, which is nice. And it looks like it might be the author as well doing the art, which is really cool. I always love to see that. And the layout is really good as well. Not sure how many subclasses you're getting, but it still looks really fun. So let's read a little bit about these Inquisitors. So Inquisitors are proto-clerics trained and empowered by their religion to handle their church or temple's dirty work. They rely on cunning and subterfuge as well as their faith to root out and investigate heretics and those that plot against the interests of their religious domain. These individuals vary in much the same way as religions vary in Dungeons and Dragons. Some focus on stealth and speed, while others rely on more on their deity's power. But one thing Inquisitors have in common is a zeal for gaining answers. The Inquisitor can bring a noir edge to the secretive goings-on within your game, adding a level of character to the religious touchstones of your fantasy world. It offers both engaging combat options as well as tools for great roleplay. So, pretty cool. And you can see they have cantrips, and I think this is injunctions or urjunctions known all the way up to 8. And they get cantrips, and they get spells up to the 5th level. And then we get to see one of the features. So Mark of Accusation. As a bonus action, you can place a Mark of Accusation upon a creature within 60 feet. For the next minute, you can add your Wisdom modifier to your weapon attacks against it, and you have advantage on insight checks to discern if the creature is lying. If the target of this ability dies, you can move it to another creature within range on a subsequent turn as a bonus action. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. So pretty cool. You get to put a little mark on a creature and learn things about it in terms of its lies, and then you can boost your attacks against it, which is fits. If it's an Inquisitor, we think of Inquisitors in the real world as sort of keep trying to get to the truth and forcibly getting their religion's stuff out there. So there's just sort of in your face, making sure you're abiding by the religion's rules or whatever. So that mark seems right in line with that kind of concept for a character. So check it out. It's under Inquisitor class in the links below. Give it a click. Next, we've got Large Luigi Presents, a primer's primer to spelljamming by Andy English, $14. It's already a best copper seller, and it's 106 pages. And so it says the 𝙭𝙬𝙀 returns. It greatly fleshes out the material plane side of Wildspace and introduces the 𝙭𝙬𝙀, an intermediary fluid within the material plane that separates Wildspace systems from each other without having to traverse the astral sea. Fraught with its own dangers and outside the purview of the gods, the 𝙭𝙬𝙀 is a dangerous and flammable realm that allows spelljamming ships to travel faster than the speed of light by accessing flow rivers. So you get rules for the 𝙭𝙬𝙀 and its special properties. So that was something that was in, 2nd edition Spelljamming and just didn't return with the 5th edition. So now you can bring it back if you liked it. And I think it sounds cool. Like it could be fun. Tables to generate your own Wildspace systems. That's going to be super helpful. 4 factions. New ship rules, new ship classes, new weapons and magic items, 2 new lineages, 2 new subclasses, 25 new monsters, and an Atlas of Wildspace. So, this is really a substantial work to help support you in your, Spelljammer campaigns. It's got a mix of everything, so it's going to be really helpful. And it's already a best copper seller. So looking inside, it looks like we get to see 11 pages. So you've got a location, it looks like. maybe some characters. Here's to the battle beyond the stars. So there's the Albari creature here, and then you got an Ancient Mariner stat block, which is a let's see what CR is, a CR5. Then you got the Ancient Mariner Captain at CR7, Bionoid. These have CR12 and 16. Buzz Jewel. I mean, so you're getting a good amount of stuff. Contemplator, CR13. So you can get some bosses out of here. You can get some, other encounter creatures. But let's go back up. So this is Deidre Dax. So this, I think this might be an NPC. So it says location planet and Nadia in realm space. Adventure level 12 to 13. It says this quest should be given by a friend of Deidre's in realm space who has the counterpart to Dee's Sending Stone. So called Mad Dax. Deidre is a figure of renown across realm space, a notorious privateer with ties to the Harpers of Faerun and the dynasties of Xiaolong and Karatur. Deidre Dax commands a customized Xiao dragon ship called the Youngest Screen. The entire vessel is built to 3/4 normal scale, reducing it to a long ship class but making it the perfect size in Dax's estimation for a halfling. Fortunately, Dax, recently raiding some mind flayers trying to harvest the halflings of Nadia for brains, got a bit too deep and had the Youngest Screen go down on the surface of the planet and not in the tolerably warm polar regions. The good news is that the hull of the ship is largely intact and no hands were lost in the crash. The bad news is that the water supply is dwindling. So basically, it looks like you're going to have to help figure out how to get out of there. So there's the crew situation. It goes through... it says the 6-strong space clown crew on an infernal war machine is gunning to find the legendary Mad Dax and end her. So these are some complications in this table. Little fun encounters that you can have. You got to rescue this party that's crashed. You've got 169. It says a 𝙏𝙤𝙀𝙀𝙀𝙀, often shortened to foul, a species of enormous space-dwelling telekinetic slugs with tan skin that darkens with age until it turns jet black near the end of its life. And so all these things that you're going to find with it, it says when the party fights past the immune system and reaches the chest cavity of the mega beast, what will they find waiting for them? So you're going to go inside this giant beast basically with that encounter. So fun encounters, and then as I said, all kinds of creatures, because you got the Albari at a CR4, and then we saw 16, 13, other CRs in here. And that's not even, we're not even seeing the new ship rules or the phlogiston stuff or the ship classes or weapons or magic items or lineages or subclasses or all the monsters or the Atlas of Wildspace. I mean, so many things. And you need that because Wildspace is vast, right? It's not like you're just on Faerun or you're just on Krynn. You're out in space traveling between those potentially or other places. So you need lots and lots of material so that if your party wants to go in a different direction or you want to go in a different direction, you have that option. And this seems like a lot of material to support you. So I think you should check it out. It's under Large Luigi Presents, a Primer's Primer, in the links below. Give it a click. Next, we got Orc Chief's Throne by John Davis. It's $3, 12 pages, and it says it's an adventure designed to be used as a bridge between the free Spelljammer Academy adventure on D&D Beyond and the Light of 𝘲𝙗𝙗 adventure that is included in the Spelljammer Adventures in Space book. If the players know they are in a Spelljammer campaign, they will itching to have their own spelljamming ship as soon as possible. So it seems like, there was this gap, perceived gap between, Spelljammer Academy and then the box set adventure. So this will bridge that gap, apparently. It says, completing this will give the PCs an opportunity to start the Light of 𝘲𝙗𝙗 with their own spelljamming ship, as well as give a clear path that leads from Spelljammer Academy into Light of 𝘲𝙗𝙗. So I think that's super nice and helpful because, the Spelljammer Academy is a free adventure you can get on D&D Beyond, and then if you've purchased that box set, then this would bridge the gap for $3 between the two. This is particularly recommended for a party of level 5 characters, and it can be easily done in a single session. It says, on the River Raven in the Sword Coast, 𝙏𝙤𝙀𝙀𝙀 had established a secret outpost several years ago to gather intelligence on the region. A tribe of orcs discovered the outpost and their spelljamming ship, slaughtered the inhabitants, and fortified the area for themselves. Not realizing the full potential of the ship, the orc chief 𝙁𝙘𝙘 had the spelljamming helm set up in the keep as her throne. Even without the flying capabilities, the orcs now have access to a fast, tough ship with several siege weapons. The orcs are using it very effectively to raid along the river. So yeah, you have to deal with that, and then as a result, you could emerge with the ship if your party's successful. So it gives you Dungeon Master notes, background, and then overview and adventure hooks. But, it says, ideally, this adventure is used as a follow-up to Spelljammer Academy. If that is the case, Mert has been doing his own reconnaissance when the orcs took over the outpost and ship. He tasked the PCs with recovering the ship and the helm before the orcs realized exactly what they had. But alternatively, you can have 𝙤𝙤𝙢𝙤𝙧𝙀 recruits the PCs. She offers the PCs anything they want from the outpost, including the ship and helm, if they can find what happened to the 𝙤𝙤𝙢𝙤 and help ensure that they receive proper funeral rites. A shady merchant who secretly traded supplies to the 𝙤𝙤𝙢𝙤 is willing to part with the knowledge of a free spelljamming ship for the right price. Or a nearby fishing village hires the PCs to rescue several of their people from the outpost prison. And then we got rumors. So all kinds of stuff going on. But the rumors is the orcs raid on their fish-shaped ship every few nights. Always at night, the ship is fast and equipped with heavy weapons. So yeah, that could be a rumor to get the PCs involved. So the orc chief is a woman named 𝙁𝙘𝙘. Sometimes she leads the raids, and sometimes her captain 𝑘𝑠 leads the raids. So lots of good information. It's nice, again, that they're taking that free adventure and bridging from it to the box set. That's so helpful because this person's obviously been through it. John Davis has obviously been through it and wants to help other DMs have a different experience. So really cool. Love it. It's under Orcs Chief's Throne in the links below. Give it a click. Next, we've got Spelljammer Trinkets with creation tables from Duncan Thompson. It's $2, 5 pages, and it's going to give you 80 trinkets for Spelljammer with tables for many more. And it gives you options to modify and build trinkets, descriptors and extras, decorations, inscriptions, and materials. So not just giving you trinkets, but giving you the means to make your own or to kind of customize some of the trinkets. So you can see here in the 4-page preview, so you're pretty much seeing the whole book, what some of those are. So it starts with the Spelljammer trinkets. So the first one is a petrified dead god the size of your hand. And then the next table, the first one is a bone portal key given to you by a Zodar. Third table, a sweetheart locket with a portrait of a Thri-Kreen sailor. And then the fourth table, a board game titled Meteors and Mind Flayers with no rules. And this is one that we read from each of these tables. There's 20 on there. But then here we get into the trinket creation tables. So you can modify existing ones. So you can start with an existing table trinket, and it tells you where to roll. And then if you want to build your own, it tells you how to do that. And then the base item, if you need a base item, which is in these tables here, it could be a stuffed space eel, a metal turtle, a model bombard ship, a ship deck plan, a tiny raft, etc. And then some more base items. And then you get to the extras. So if we just pick the first one, a dented grappling hook, which fills you with hope when you look into the void. So there you go. You get a little ribbon-like effect that goes with that grappling hook. Or you could have given to you by a 𝙤𝙘𝙧𝙀 mercenary or famed Wildspace explorer. So you can mix these up, get descriptors. So it could be iridescent or disconcerting, radiant, or Thri-Kreen in style. So that grappling hook could be iridescent, right? So, and then you've got all kinds of covered in space dust is one of the decorations, or inscriptions sharing the last words of an astral elf captain. The materials, wood or chitin, crystal or iron. So lots of ways to create these. If you're a creator, you could use these to create new things for your books, or you could use them to just maybe inspire. Maybe you don't use exactly what's here, but it tickles your imagination enough to cause you to come up with something. So I love books like this. I'm a huge fan of tables anyway. So books like this are really fun to me because you can just roll and then see where your imagination takes you, or you can just pick from these. remember, with all tables, you can pretty much pick if you want, if you're the DM or you're not actually playing at the time, you're just creating, right? There's different rules for creating than there are with playing. So keep that in mind and check this out. It's in the links in the video description under Spelljammer Trinkets and with creation tables, so give it a click. Next, we have the Tomes of Melchior, elemental spells from Daniel Johnson, and it's got 60 new spells manipulating the powers of elements, $3.95 for 17 pages. Do you feel like there isn't enough options for elemental spells in officially released content? Do you want to add some mysterious and previously unknown spells as loot in your campaign world? Are you sick and tired of only burning monsters with fire and want to punch them with it too? Well, that's what the author's asking you here. It says enhance your characters and monsters with 60 new spells themed around the elements. So you get all kinds of stuff, starting with 6 cantrips, 10 first level, all the way up to 2 9th level. So let's take a look at some of those. So we get to see 2 of those 17 pages. First one, 3rd degree, 3rd level evocation. Range of 30 feet, a creature you can see within range. Concentration up to 1 minute. It says a tongue of flame whips from your outstretched hand to wound one of your foes. Make a ranged spell attack against a target. On a hit, it takes 48 fire damage and its flesh is seared. A creature with its flesh seared by the spell has disadvantage on saving throws against spells and other effects that deal fire damage. A seared creature can repeat the save at the end of each of its turns, ending the spell on a success. At higher levels, when you cast a spell using a spell slot of 4th level or higher, the damage increases by 1d8 for each slot above 3rd, and is for Artificer and Wizard. So that sounds fun. Let's look for another one to read. So, Wind Scythe, it's a 4th level evocation. You can have a range of self in a 60-foot line. And it's instantaneous. Narrow blade of wind, 15 feet wide, cuts slices out from your hand in a 60-foot line. The width of the blade can be angled either vertically or horizontally. Each creature in the line must make a dex saving throw. A creature takes 68 slashing damage on a failed save, or half as much damage on a successful one. At higher levels, the damage increases by 1d8 for each slot above 4th. And it's for Druid, Sorcerer, and Wizard, and it's 4th level. So, fun. You get to play with the wind, you get to play with fire. I see some stuff with sand in here, and some of the other, water. There's one called Drown. So if you really want to mix it up, it's true, it is fire dominated what's out there officially. So having other options could be really fun, especially if you want to like homebrew like an elementalist class, or you want to kind of lean into that in your campaign and all. This could be really cool. So check it out. It's under Tomes of Melchior in the links below. Give it a click. Next, we have Untold Subclasses, Halioic Soul, from Keith Hiscox, $1.95 for 6 pages. And so it's got the subclass, the Halioic Soul, stat block for that subclass. So then you have an NPC version of it. Then you get 12 new living spell monster stat blocks, and then you get a new cleric druid spell, as well as rules framework for ecological theory for creating more living spells. So pretty fun that it has all this stuff in it. And here you get you get some quirks. So you have iridescent skin is icy cold to the touch. You always sleep with one eye open. When emotional, you emit a rapid series of clicks and whistles. You breathe air rapidly and shallowly, etc. The spells in the table below count as sorcerer spells, so you get these extra access to extra spells like Create or Restore Water, Augury, Beacon of Hope, Control Water, etc. And then here you can see you got a CR10 example of the subclass that you can unleash upon your players as an enemy. And then you even get some meta magic options like a postponed spell. It says when you cast a spell that does not require an attack roll, you can spend 2 sorcery points to delay the spell taking effect. The spell target is set and the spell slot is spent at the point of casting. Provided the target remains on the same plane of existence and you maintain concentration, you can prevent the spell effect from immediately manifesting. When you subsequently drop your concentration or concentration is broken, the spell takes effect. Any time spent held in abeyance in this way counts toward the spell's duration. This means a spell may not be postponed for a period longer than the duration of the spell. So yeah, if you have a longer spell, you could use this meta magic effect to have a delayed effect, which could be really surprising. You could cast something on, the big bad, and then they leave, and you just stay concentrating on it, and then, they get hit by it later, and maybe they don't even think it was you because you're not around them anymore. Or maybe you are, and it's the middle of the fight, and you've taken them by surprise when they thought they had the upper hand. And that's just one of 3 that we can see here in this preview. But looking at this subclass, so they have freestyle stroke. At first level, you gain a swimming speed of 40 feet, and you can breathe underwater. And then when you reach 3rd level, you also learn the spell Longstrider. And then at 6th level, you exist in symbiosis with the state of the ocean. When you rest near the sea, you may gain your choice of the following benefits. The effect lasts until you lose the natural sensory requirement or select another benefit. So if you choose touch, you gain d6 temporary hit points while directly touching the sea. These are replenished if you end your turn completely submerged in the sea and lost after 10 minutes on dry land. If you choose taste, as long as you can taste the sea or its spray, you have resistance to lightning damage, etc. And then there's 1 for each sense. So it's a pretty fun way to do it, connected to the senses. Obviously you need to be playing in sort of an underwater setting or, a nautical adventure. It's not going to work, in a landlocked situation. You got the Halioic flow. You gain the ability to step through one body of water into another. And then you've got hydromorphic form. You can spend 6 sorcery points as a bonus action to magically transform yourself into a water elemental. So all kinds of fun stuff happening in here. And as always with Keith Hiscox's titles, you get that extra stuff. You get those NPC stat blocks. We didn't even get to look at the living spells that are in here. Or the new spell. So lots of stuff available for only $1.95. Again, great price for this, I think. So check it out under Untold Subclasses in the links below. Give it a click. Well, that's our last DM's Guild title for the week. Before we move on to DriveThruRPG, please subscribe to the channel, like the video for the algorithm, leave a comment. I will respond to all comments personally. Share the video out there so we can get more people aware of this series. They can find these really cool titles. And consider purchasing one of the Splinterverse media books. You can check them all out at splinterverse.com or in the links below. We've got Fizban's Vault of Draconic Secrets, which has anything and everything you could want for players for dragon themed content. It's got subclasses connected to dragons for each and every class, including Artificer. It's got a new type of familiar, horde magic items, draconic gifts, and it even has adventure hooks to tie all of these player facing things into DM opportunities, whether it's an NPC for your subclass or some other way to bring it into the story. And you've got magic items and spells and just so many dragon goodies in that book. It's available on DM's Guild and in the links below. And then we've got the Feywild Companion, our platinum best-selling title. It's over 150 pages print or digital for Feywild stuff. So if you want to have a new Domain of Delight, if you want to have a subclass that's deeply connected to the Feywild, we've got one for each class in there. We've got spells, magic items, adventures, encounters, monsters. It's just all packed into the over 150 pages for you, so you can really, really flesh out the Feywild and just have so many adventures. I mean, just even each monster has an adventure hook, minimum of 1, so you could really take those and build whole adventures around them. So we wanted you to get that book and just feel like you have everything you need to just have a Feywild good time. You've also got our Potions Unlocked book, which is over 100 pages in digital or print, and it goes deep dives into potions, makes them interesting, gives you optional rules, fleshes them out, gives you a bunch of new potions with beautiful artwork, including origin stories for each of the potions that you could turn into encounters or have a vendor relate to the players, including lots of vendors in the book. We got at least 3 different vendors with inventories of potions and things they sell, as well as potion themed locations where you can have whole adventures around potions, so they don't ever have to be boring. Again, if people use this material in this book, they'll never think of it, oh, I'm just taking a potion of healing. They'll think of it differently, because we get into the taste and the smell and what's on the label and all this stuff. So you can go as deep as you want, or just use use the potions with the effects that they have that we've created for you. Some really fun different effects. One of them gives the character a halo among a host of other effects, so could be really fun to experiment with. And a lot of them have downsides. If you use it too much, something happens, so gotta check that out. Then we've got Swarms of the Multiverse, which is over 180 pages of swarm goodness, with 70 new creatures, 140 stat blocks, over 150 adventure hooks, and each creature is given so much lore, all these different tactics in a playlist, so you can quickly add them to combat. Stat blocks for them individually, as well as the swarm that's associated with them. Maybe they summon swarms, they form swarms, they control swarms. Somehow they're connected to swarms, but you get the individual as well. And then all the bonus material, like magic items connected to them, or a disease connected to them, or a faction, or even my favorite, the demiplanes. We've got 4 new demiplanes in there that you can explore, and they're really fun with artwork. The artwork on the demiplanes especially is really beautiful, so you can really visualize these different demiplanes that these creatures might take you to. And these are not reskins. These are really brand new creatures with new actions, new mechanics, so that you can have a lot of fun just unleashing something your table has never heard of, and it could be a lot of fun for you. Then we've got Van Richten's Libram of Lineages, which goes into 4 conflict-driven lineages, as well as optional rules to support using lineages as introduced in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. But keep in mind, this book is good for any setting, because these conflict-driven lineages work pretty much anywhere. Then you've got Secrets of the Draugr, which is a melding of the Drow race with the Duergar race, and it has really interesting twists to it. There's backgrounds in there, 3 different backgrounds. There is some deities that you can use. There's NPC stat blocks, adventure hooks, a new fortune telling method. So all kinds of good stuff. And again, you can check all these out at splinterverse.com, or you can go to the links in the video description and find out more about them. And we're working on a brand new book for Dragonlance. It's going to come out later this year. It is huge already. Lots and lots of pages, lots and lots of material, and we can't wait to share it with you on DM's Guild and let you explore Krynn alongside the official Wizards release. So it's going to work very well with that release, really support adventures on Krynn, and I think you're going to love it. So stay tuned. We've already started teasing it a little bit, and there'll be more and more of that as we get closer. So feel free to hit me up with questions about it on social media, and follow us everywhere, of course, at Splinterverse. So thank you so much for watching. Please click all the links and support all these great creators, so that they continue to produce wonderful, wonderful books. And if you make any purchases, if you do any shopping through these links, you're going to help support the channel. So it's a win-win for everyone. All right, let's move on to DriveThruRPG. First, we have amazing encounters and places. Your players with these 8 locations, 56 encounters, and 64 gorgeous maps with this really fun cover. It's from CZRPG, $24.99 for 304 pages. A bunch of authors, including Christian Zook, Rodolfo Seguro, Victor Armorim, and Jenny Loveday. So lots of authors. I didn't read them all, but hopefully you'll check them all out. And it says, a 5th edition supplement presented in a gorgeous 304-page PDF, which provides you these 8 locations with lore and a regional map, which you can drop into your own or existing setting. There are 2 locations of each of the terrain types. So there's 2 coasts, 2 forests, 2 mountains, and 2 swamps. Each location provides 6 independent encounters tied into an overarching plot, which ends with a 7th encounter. So that gives you 56 encounters total. And then each encounter has its own battle map. So if you want to use the digital files for a VTT, you can do that, but that gives you 56 battle maps as well. Then you get 38 art pieces for a total, custom art pieces for a total of 150 pieces of art in here, and then 32 new player options. So you've got subclasses, lineages, magic items, feats, and spells, and then 66 new stat blocks. So just tons and tons of stuff in here, which is really, really cool. You can see the table of contents. Yeah, this looks like it'd be really fun, really helpful. You know, you just never know when you've got a blank space on your map, or maybe the map ends, right? And then you got to go what's up beyond the edge of this map if you don't have the ocean there. And even if you do, you could have an island, I guess. You need to figure out what's over there sometimes. So having a book like this where you can just pick one of these locations, and then you have some built-in encounters. I mean, 6 for each one, plus a 7th that ties it all together if you want to do a campaign. I mean, that's awesome. So you get all these little campaigns with it as well. So you have encounter challenges, scaling it for tiers of play, which is really helpful. So you can see how they're separating out the DCs for the different tiers of play. So if you're in tier 1, for example, it might be a DC 13, but if you're in tier 4, the DC would be 22, and then they can just kind of show that wherever they need to. And then same with combat. So that's great as well. Makes these encounters valuable for any tier of play, which is awesome. And I mean, look at this fun map here. I really like the style of it. So you got places of interest, overarching plot. So you get to see 80 of the 304 pages. So quite a bit to see. You can see one of the awesome maps. So it gives you Seagull's Nest here, and then it gives you information on the town, background. Then you've got the encounter. Going through all of the little steps to it, including the map, and then scaling the combat, of course, and then outcomes and rewards. And then the next one is title changes. So each of these encounters are not just like a one page as well, right? They're giving you multiple pages of information for the encounter, so you can really enjoy it and have all the information you need. So this particular section is the Bountiful Strand. So this is the first location. It says this coastal region is formed by 2 distinct locations, one being the populated area of Seagull's Nest, which is in a dramatic-looking bay with eroding coastal cliffs and boulder beaches. The other is the vast 𝘼𝙗𝙤 coast, whose gentle grassy dunes and low-lying sandy beaches with hummocks and occasional rocky promontories have started to draw the attention of settlers and raiders. If you wish to connect this region to the Alabaster Fangs, the northeastern coast, it can be reached as soon as the players cross the mountains, just a few days travel from there. So it's telling you how to take some of the other locations in the book and stitch them together so that if you want to build a whole map using these locations, you can as well. So they give you those places of interest. We talked a little bit about how there's Seagull's Nest, but let's read about the overarching plot. So after the invading empire suffered its loss to the sorcery of the Bascan mage, its whole fleet was deemed destroyed. However, 2 ships withstood the storm, reaching nearby reefs. They capsized after hitting them, but the sea was calm after the storm, and 36 survivors managed to live off those reefs and the wreckage. They built rafts and moved elsewhere. Unfortunately, as their sustenance was mostly a local fish called the pepperfish, delicious but toxic over time, they slowly lost their long-term memory, forgetting their origin and identity. As they reached the 𝘼𝙗𝙤 shore and built new homes in coves and dunes, some of their memories began to return. However, instead of going back to a place they barely remembered, they decided to raid nearby fishing villages and careless travelers from Seagull's Nest. They became known as the Reef Raiders. The Reef Raiders currently number about 200 fighting men and women, with some other tribes sometimes siding with them: 𝘼𝙤𝙤𝙗, kobolds, merfolk, and marrow. The raiders rely on hit-and-run tactics and on the taming of several beasts of the region, such as axe-beaks, sharks, dinosaurs, etc. Encounters between reef raiders and Seagull's Nest have become more frequent as it became known that the 𝘼𝙗𝙤 coast is spawning treasure from the old fleet. The party is asked to kill the reef raiders' leader to force them into submission to the mayor of Seagull's Nest. So what they're saying is that as you go through these encounters, you're going to see this conflict between the Reef Raiders and, Seagull's Nest and all the other players in this, and it's going to come to a head with this overarching plot because the party's going to be asked to take out the leader of the Reef Raiders to bring peace to the region. So it's pretty cool. And then it goes into like a paragraph about each of the encounters for this section, and then you also got a table that tells you, is it more of an exploration encounter or social combat or combination. You can see they've got quite a bit a representation of the different pillars, and then it goes into more information on how to develop it, and then you get right into the first encounter, which is an exploration combat one. So very nicely laid out, easy to understand, digestible. They've made it simple for you to quickly scan and see, okay, well, what type of encounter is this, or where's the location, and how do I connect it to somewhere else? And again, with all these level ranges and the way they're doing the DCs, etc., I love that, because this is not just a tier 1 book, it's a tier 1 to 4. So wherever you are in your campaign, if you want to plop one of these encounters in there, if you want to plop one of these locations in there, you're good to go. And that's super, super helpful. Invaluable, I would think, to people that are looking for one-shots or, filler, or even just want to string all of this together. It looks fun. You could build all of this into, a brand new continent on your world, or a section of your continent, or just the start of your own homebrew world. So I really like it. I think you should look for it in the video description links under Amazing Encounters and Places and give it a click. Next, we have At the Shrine of Othrys, and it is from Skirmisher Publishing, $11.99 for 118 pages. It's already a best copper seller. We've got Michael O. Verholia, Skirmisher Game Development Group, as the authors. It says, you have traveled through a desolate wilderness, and after braving untold hardships and dangers, reached the base of Mount Othrys, legendary headquarters of the Titans during their war with the Olympian gods. Before you, the valley widens out, and at its center is a small, rugged hill, a ring of large standing stones at its top, marking its place as a place of worship since the earliest times. On the western side of this mound of rock, the Ramesha River expands into a small lake, and on the eastern side, a plume of smoke rises from the ground between it and the mountain. Scrubby copses of vegetation cling to the base of the hill, and sparse rolling grassland lies in the quarter of a mile that separates you from it. You know that you have surely arrived at the Shrine of Othrys. So it's a self-standing campaign-length 5th edition adventure designed for a party of 4 or 5 first-level characters, and it's intended to take them to at least 5th level and to lay the groundwork for continuing scenarios and development. So you've got a 5-part dungeon, descriptions and stat blocks for 63 monsters, an encounter table for the region around Mount Othrys that allows for sandbox play, 4 ready-to-use pre-gen characters, and a lot more, including maps. So very, very cool. So here's one of the maps, which I think looks really cool. I mean, this sort of otherworldly surrounding area, and then this looks like it might be some ice or something. But I love this. It looks really, really nice. And then you've got something called a magma serpent here, which is a CR1. And talks about magma gargoyles, and then you got Meta Volcanus, a unique Paragon Magma Mephit, who is challenge rating 3, and then more artwork. So getting to see just a good little excerpt here of the book. So we'll read a little bit about that. Let's see, what can we read for you that's going to be interesting? So let's read about the Magma Gargoyles. Magma Gargoyles have vulnerability to cold damage and immunity to fire damage, but are otherwise identical to regular creatures of their sort. If the party splits up, at least one of the separate groups will be attacked by a magma gargoyle. Otherwise, a united party will eventually spot a pair of the monsters, shadowing them, and these will attack when the party finds either of the 2 treasures or to defend themselves. So, makes sense. That's cool. I like this sort of volcanic theme they've got going on in here. Seems really, really cool. You don't see a lot of volcanic stuff, maybe in some of the plains, but I think there could be a lot more of it. So it says here, the pentagonal pillar is actually an aesthetic feature, the garden of plutonic solids, and contains 5 stone polyhedrons, each about 5 feet in diameter. These polyhedrons have no tool marks on them, and successful inspection and analysis through a nature check reveals that they appear to be cooled and solidified ends of intrusions of molten rock from below. At each of the ends of the causeways facing this garden, 3 6-inch wide symbols are etched into the stone, a triangle, a square, and a pentagon. And if any of these is touched, it will pulse with magical energy. If the combination of triangle, square, triangle, pentagon, triangle is touched in the course of a single round, then the column will stop rotating and 2 basalt pillars will rise up from the sea 10 feet below and bridge the gaps between the causeway and the garden. So you've got some puzzle stuff happening. I like that. And that could even tie into this map. I'm not sure, but yeah, I like the little cracks in here too they've got in the map. But there's metavolcanus, magma gargoyles, magma mephit destroyers. I mean, all kinds of stuff going on that's volcanic in just this section of the book. I mean, it's 118 pages, so there's going to be a lot of stuff going on in this book, but I like it a lot because you can reuse these stat blocks, methods. You can always find uses for those. You can reuse the maps. The puzzle looks really fun. You can reuse that even. So we love reusability. I mean, 63 monsters, 5-part dungeon, great artwork. What more could you ask for? So look for it under at the Shrine of Othrys in the links below and give it a click. Next we have Caravea Victor, Blades in the Senate, an adventure for Caravea Victor basically, which we had previously covered Caravea Victor as a campaign setting, so now this is an adventure for it. $3 for the 13-page adventure. And it says, young and inexperienced Imperator Aurelius and the Senate face a crisis. General Volneyus has declared himself emperor, and he is now also gathering support from some senators as well. In this adventure, players shall try to protect a senator as a conspiracy within the Senate unfolds and daggers are taken out. They shall be on the receiving very end of intrigue and a bloody power play. So 4 characters of 5th level, but can be adjusted easily. It takes roughly 3 to 4 hours and can serve as a one-shot or the start or the middle of a campaign. Yeah, Caravea Victor is basically a Roman Empire style campaign setting. So you could look for those books. They might even be, no, they're not down here, but they mention it here, so you can always look for those. Or look for it in past episodes. We covered it before. But really cool setting. And here's some of the interior. You get to see 4 of the 13 pages. So you get to read about the different acts that they're going to have. So it says, Act 1, Lucrinia's request. As the adventure begins, players have gathered to meet with Senator Nerinius Jovinus Lucrinia, a wealthy patrician. They stand ready in the senator's villa in Kiravna, the imperial capital. Her servants and slaves bring in some food, fruits, and wine to the room. As she enters the room, she makes a gesture, and the servants leave. So already you're getting that feel of like Roman times, with the fruits and wine and all of that stuff, and the servants and stuff like that going on. And it says she's a middle-aged patrician woman. Lucrinia has an air of superiority and authority, yet she is not arrogant at all. She wears elegant clothes and ornaments that depict her social status and power. She is highly intelligent and educated and chooses to think first before she talks. So she speaks to the players. She says, "Salve, my fellow friends, my deep gratitude for coming here. You see, I am in need of some help, and I feel that this matter is also crucial for the fate of the Empire. You may have heard about General Volneyus proclaiming himself an Imperator. He has rebelled against Emperor Aurelius, and his supporters are many. Some senators are openly speaking in favor of the general, and I think they will act soon. Tomorrow there is a Senate meeting, and I'm worried that things may escalate between the supporters of the Emperor and General Volneyus. I also fear for my own safety, as I have rivals in the general's faction. This is why I asked you to come. I would like you to stay by my side, pass the night here, and tomorrow accompany me during the Senate meeting. Please, make yourselves at home while you're in my villa, and if you have any needs or questions, I will gladly answer them." So she's a little worried. She needs the party to be there, and, of course, things aren't going to go smoothly since it's part of an adventure. But it's really cool to have the opportunity to play in like basically ancient Rome. Yeah, it's not actually Rome, but it's a stand-in for it with the full Caravea Victor campaign. But maybe you have some other similar campaign setting. Maybe you've homebrewed some Theros into more Roman stuff, or you've got you want to finish your Theros and have them travel to another part of your homebrew world where you placed Theros, and now they're going to encounter Rome. Wherever you want to go with this. Or just actually use the Caravea Victor campaign. It looks like you have some good options, and I think it'll be a fun time with the political intrigue. So check it out under Blades in the Senate in the links below. Give it a click. Next we have 𝙬𝙤 Blood Circus from 𝙤𝙤𝙬𝙧, $1.99 for 25 pages, author Cliff Dunn. It's always a show when the circus comes to town. The colorful tents and banners, the smiling faces, and the expectation of crowds, spectacle, and blood. 𝙬𝙤 Blood Circus is a gladiatorial troupe that brings with it a trail of mayhem and violence when its wagons set up near your campaign's populated areas. Bringing the promise of entertainment, violent distraction, and gory display, 𝙬𝙤's brawling champions will match steel against the best talent your party has to offer. But there's always a catch. So that's what you're going to find out, right, when you purchase this, which is part of the ongoing releases from 𝙤𝙤𝙬𝙧 related to the mega continent of Xul and the free city of Vateshar. They have a drip release strategy where they do smaller supplements every week or so that you can really deep dive, get to know everything happening in these places, and then eventually unleash it on your players if you're a DM. So it's got a description of the operations behind 𝙬𝙤's Bloody Circus, handouts to recruit local fighters, a history of the prominent members of 𝙬𝙤's management team and arena brawlers, NPC stat blocks, adventure hooks, advice for incorporating 𝙬𝙤's Blood Circus into your campaign, and of course some information on the overall setting. So very cool. I think these are so great because not only can you use them for the mega continent of Xul, free city of Vateshar setting, you can also pick and choose little pieces and put them wherever. This is focused on a faction essentially with some NPCs and some activities that are happening surrounding this faction. So if you wanted to just either reskin this and put it somewhere or use it as is and put it in your homebrew campaign, there's nothing stopping you, especially for $1.99. So you've got the introduction, come and see the show here. We're so glad you could attend. And then guaranteed to blow your head apart, it says. So let's get ready to rumble. And then the finale, the long arm. So lots of stuff going on. And then you've got the players here. So 𝙬𝙤, who's the ringmaster, is a CR4. And then Carvos is a CR4 as well, who's the business manager. And 𝘚𝙤𝙬 is a CR2, and 𝘚𝙤𝙬 is the healer and cook for the brawlers. And then 𝙤𝙤 is a CR4 who's the facilitator. So, and then here's a little pit fighter advertisement, so you could try to get people to come in. And then you've got the Gomes monk, and Gwentha is a CR5. And then you've got Sarveg, a Varangian barbarian, CR5. So lots of stuff going on. Another CR5 and another CR5. So yeah, lots of things. And then you get your adventure hooks at the end, which is always helpful. And they write really lengthy ones, which I like. So yeah, basically a lot going on. It says 𝙬𝙤's Blood Circus are an unscrupulous, underhanded, and violent gladiatorial circus that promotes bouts between its champions and local stooges. The troupe participates in quite a few illicit and illegal activities, including, but definitely not limited to, rigged betting on brawl matches, double dealing games of chance, drug smuggling and dealing, prostitution, human trafficking, and worse. The troupe and their corrupt circus set up outside cities and towns near main thoroughfares and trade routes wherever people have money and can be separated from it. So yeah, if they're setting up outside of towns, all you need is a town or a city or even a trade route, because they could be in transit between two locations for your players to encounter this circus, basically. It says the brawler's owner and namesake 𝙬𝙤 is an Arabi who spent his youth working as a caravan drover until he was driven off for stealing by an angry caravan master. Finding himself stranded in the League of Andos, he spent several years working as a trainer, fixer, and bookie in the proliferation of sports stadiums and racing arenas that dot the landscape of that sun-soaked land. Unfortunately, his larcenous and depraved habits brought him to the attention of Andos's autarchical authorities once too often, and Bolsa was tried, convicted, and condemned to a life sentence on a prison galley. In an extraordinary stroke of good luck, at least for Bolsa, less than 6 months after leaving port in Andos, the galley foundered and sank during a storm off the coast of Zambala and the Jungle Kingdoms. Bolsa was the only survivor, swimming for his life into freedom. So that's an interesting backstory. He was basically going to be condemned to a life of imprisonment, and the fate had other plans because it crashed the ship he was in, and he was the only survivor, so he could probably make up his own story as to who he was and where he was, and get away from all of that. So really good backstory, and there's just so much you can read in here. And what's always nice with the 𝙤𝙬𝙬𝙧 stuff is you can read the whole book before you buy it, so you can read all 25 pages, really get to see what's up with it before you make the purchase. But again, $1.99 to have all these stat blocks and this circus that you can have show up anywhere. It's really, really cool, and fun art as well. So check it out in the links below under Bolsa's Blood Circus. Give it a click. Next, we have Book of Ebon Tides from Kobold Press, and it's $29 on sale. It's 254 pages. It's got a bunch of authors, including Wolfgang Barr, Celeste Conowitch, Richard Green, Sarah Madsen, Kelly Pollack, and Brian Susskind. Hope I pronounced those correctly. If not, I'm sorry. Welcome to the Shadow Realm, a twisting and distorted counterpart to the lands you know. Here, the Shadow Fae hold court, reveling in their frivolities and intrigues, while the 𝙈𝙗𝙗 hunt the unwary, and those other peoples adapted to the shadows strive to simply get on in their lives. This plane of shadow is ever changing and filled with adventure for those willing to explore the darkness and the things you'll find in this 250 plus page volume. So you can guard yourself against an often hostile land of subtle intrigue and thinly veiled aggression, of political opportunities and roaming monsters. You can learn the secrets of the Ebon Tides, the very ebb and flow of the shifting shadow stuff beneath your feet, and of the shadow roads that connect the planes. Visit the wondrous Fey courts and realize your life may very well depend on proper etiquette and taking great care with your words. Negotiate with the peoples of the land, such as the bear folk, shadow goblins, sable elves, umbral humans, and many others. Pay proper respect to those gods of the shadows, lest they turn too close an eye toward you. Plus, you get 52 spells, 16 races and sub-races, 10 subclasses, 22 monsters and NPCs, 80 magic items, and more. So this plunges you into the machinations of the various powers of shadow, providing you everything you need to propel your adventures into the shadow realm. Here you'll find an overview of all the peoples, monsters, and magics of the land, and all the details that GMs and players need to carve their names in the shadows. So such a fun concept, and it has so much to offer just from what I can read here. And Kobold Press always does such great stuff. I really love that they have such creativity, such beautiful artwork, such thorough publications. They're always big books that have so much information for you that you can just live off of for a long time. There's so many pieces in them that you can take out and put into your homebrew stuff, or you can use them as is, or minor tweaks, whatever you want to do. But I'm always grateful when a new Kobold Press title comes out, because that means tons and tons of material for DMs and players to get their hands on. And it looks like we've got a wonderful video down here too that you can watch from Ginny. And let's take a look inside. So we've got the overview of all the different parts of the book, including little pictures. Even their table of contents is always interesting with the fun pictures they put on their books at Kobold Press. So yeah, you get the pantheon, you get the monsters, magic items and trickery. I mean, just so much stuff in this book. Yeah, I mean, just the history of the Shadow Realm. I mean, a lot of planes just really don't get enough attention or detail. And so to have so much on the Shadow Realm that you can use, and then the Umbral people, all the different races, and then you've got your magic, like spells, brand new spells, because of course things are different in the Shadow Realm, so you might need different spells, right? And then you've got the different courts and all the NPCs there, and then realms beyond the courts. So that's important. So just so much goodness in here. I love it. And it gives you the overview and history. So for such a vast realm, surprisingly little is known about the Plane of Shadow, often also called the Shadow Realm. Herewith a short preface and overview for those who have not previously drunk deep of its twilight power. The whole plane is often described as a distortion and a shadow of the mortal realm. And certainly there are resemblances, as any shadow resembles its source and origin, and dark reflections and mirrored echoes are frequent enough. No shadow exists without a light and a source, after all. At the same time, parts of the Shadow Realm are distinct unto the plane itself, especially those portions worked by the Shadow Fey, goblins, bearfolk, humans, and Darkwool as their realms and kingdoms. These places have been shaped by magic as creatures manipulated the raw material of shadow into lands and settlements that please their makers. Great mages and clerics bend the land and the structures upon it into new forms, and the Shadow Realm itself often alters its own shape and direction in unpredictable ways. So that's a great intro, because you really need to know that, the Shadow Realm is not like the material plane. It is its own thing, and it can reshape itself. It can resemble the material plane, but not be exact to it. And that areas, pockets of this plane may be shaped by the people that live there. So you could have a whole section, with some goblins that is a little different than another section by bearfolk, or, just sort of the wild part of the Shadow Realm. So there's the overview of the Shadow Realm's nature and travel, and the Umbral people and heroes. I mean, just so many things that are related to the Shadow Realm in here, including player options, which is always awesome, because the players want to get in on the fun too. So I always appreciate that Kobold Press is thinking of both players and DMs and giving you those options. So yeah, you're going to find treasures in here that you can use for your own homebrew stuff. You can use it with, some of the other campaign settings out there, including, Kobold's Midgard setting, which is, I love the Midgard setting. There's just infinite use out of this, even if you just pluck out some spells or some subclasses, and it's normally $49.99. It's only $29.99 right now. That's a huge price difference. So you want to take advantage of it and get in here and get this awesome book. And I mean, look at this cover. It's so beautiful. So look for it in the video description links. It's under Book of Ebon Tides. Click it and get into the Shadow Realm. Next, we have Brumewatch Academy, Explore an Arcane Academy and Magic Tournaments. In this supplement is from Beyond the Screen, and author Aviad Tal, $7 for 25 pages, says the city of Selovast brings the genre of arcane punk to 5th edition. This false utopia may appear charming at first, but it is a facade the city maintains to cover injustice, corruption, and suffering. So this supplement showcases many of the wonders that the city has to offer. You get the overview of Selovast and has information for players and GMs. And then Brumewatch Academy takes us into the halls of the Arcane Academy, where wizards and artificers are trained. It provides locations, NPCs, story seeds, and new rules to play the Academy's favorite sport. So they have their own little sport, which is cool. And it puts the city's strengths on display with sophisticated automatons and sheer arcane might. Gate Rush never fails to challenge its participants and entertain the audience. So this is the map for the Gate Rush arena. So really cool that, like Hogwarts, they have their own little sport that they do, and that you apparently can either have an adventure in the arena or maybe even play the sport, which would be really cool. So let's look inside. So you get the city overview, all the locations, getting around, and then you get into the academy, and then Gate Rush. So it goes the rules of the game. Yeah, so you're going to get to play with the automatons and upgrades and field glyphs and They even have a sample team in here, and then of course you've got the map, and then various creature stat blocks as well. So looks really, really fun. You know, if you're playing Strixhaven and you want to carry on into another sort of academy setting, you could do that. You could follow it up with this, or you could have this be like a rival school from another dimension, maybe. You know, Strixhaven, or even on, you know, you can alter the plane of Strixhaven and you know, the Strixhaven's on and put it there, Arsavos or whatever it's called. I never know how to say the name of the Strixhaven plane. But anyway, you can put this somehow connected to Strixhaven, so you can have a rival academy, or, you know, if you just really enjoy playing in that kind of setting, then this is going to give you an alternative. Or maybe you want to blend some of the things. Maybe you don't want to play in Strixhaven, but you want to play in an academy. But there's pieces of the Strixhaven book that you want to implement, so you could use them with this. So I love that this is out here and available to you. So you've got all these various things going on, and it seems like it ties in well with the other Beyond the Screen releases, because they're talking about the animariums here as well, which is a really cool, there was a whole book about that we covered, and that could be a really fun thing too, where you know, you kind of trap spirits, I think, if I remember correctly, and then there's power that comes from that. So really cool, and there's some fiction in here. So it says, Sylvest is the largest city-state in Revelos. Nearly 500,000 citizens reside on its floating islands and the crater beneath them. Originally a mining colony for Hoverstone, Sylvest evolved over 3 centuries to become the metropolis it is today. Recently, the city experienced an industrial revolution. A technological advancement made the mass production of spirit-powered energy cores possible. These spirit cores power countless magic items produced by the city's artificers. In just 2 decades, the city has changed dramatically. A network of crystals light the night, automatons walk the city streets, and airships soar between floating city blocks. So really cool. And then it gives you the whole layout, exploring the city, and then some, like, there's a table of people that you might encounter in Ether Park. So the first one's a group of devious individuals have congregated in one of the park's corners, safe from scrying eyes under their blanket of sea invisibility. They seem to be in the midst of an argument about something, and several spirits of hate and fear fly around them like birds of prey, because spirits are pretty common in this setting. And then you've got the communication services, trade centers, education and research, government, health and sanitation even. So they've got a lot of stuff figured out as far as this location. So let's read about the Counselor of Culture. Dalibor Brasco is a tall and slender middle-aged human man, often seen in fine suits and holding a jewel-encrusted walking cane. After graduating from Brumewatch as a wizard, he spent a few years as a traveling adventurer, scouring ruins for treasure. Upon returning, he began to write about his adventures, and his autobiography became a bestseller. His newfound fame made it easy for him to break into politics, and his glamorized persona helped him climb rapidly within the Department of Culture. Many criticized Dalibor for being too conservative. They claim he is a useless relic, romanticized by an older generation that doesn't understand the current state of Sylvest. So, got some different NPCs that you're going to have floating around this town. So it seems really, really fleshed out. I love that it connects to the other books, you know, if you want to use some of the animarium stuff, and that there's these spirits and this opportunity to play Gate Rush, and just so many different areas in the city surrounding the school, not just the school itself. So it just seems really fun and very well illustrated too. I love all the artwork. I mean, look at this fun cover. Reminds me of like Kaladesh a little bit. You know, it's just like a blend of Strixhaven, Kaladesh, Magic the Gathering, just all kinds of fun stuff going on. So check it out. It's in the links below under Brumewatch Academy. Give it a click. Next, we have Delver, Lost Pages. It's for OSR and Old School Essentials from Tabletop Engineer, $8, and author James Floyd Kelly. And the Lost Pages contain 48 pages of random charts and tables, perfect for any OSR game, such as Old School Essentials, Basic Fantasy, Swords and Wizardry, and other BX-compatible RPGs. And it's just one of 4 books in the Lost Tomes collection. So they released several this week, but and they're all in this bundle down here. So consider, after clicking our link, getting the bundle as well, because that might be fun to get all of them. But what I love about the Delver books is that so many of the tables I find are useful in any fantasy role-playing game, including 5th edition, because you can see here in these 8 pages we're going to look at first glance, it's a pile of bones, but on closer look, there's an old magic ward on the wall, and there's one locked door, and there's screams in the distance, and a buried bag of gold. So nothing about that was only for OSR, right? It may have the feeling of OSR, but it could be used in 5th edition or any fantasy role-playing game, Dungeon World, wherever. So I like that. So that page was all about the dungeon entry area, a peek around the corner. So the first one is there's a shape of a blob, and it says, was that a tentacle? Did you hear that? A growl? They want to fight it okay. Use Basilisk stats with the special abilities from the deep one. So even again, those stats, you could probably use the 5th edition Basilisk stats and, work it out from there if you're playing 5th edition, or of course there are OSR stats for those. But we're just reading the first entries on the tables on some of these pages. So just fun stuff. A nasty trap. It's a pressure plate that does explosive fire damage to the person who triggers it, and then it gives you the damage with the save versus magic for half damage. So that area you'd have to tweak if you want to play 5th edition, but still you could use this for inspiration. And then it's a standard trap, but then they have special options. And then you got an unusual pressure, when time runs out, sprung trap, spell misfire, Ixer's wondrous tomes. So like the spell misfire, range cut in half, or touch requires both hands. Or troublesome, all shields within 30 feet become too hot to carry for 1 hour, so that'd be an interesting misfire. And then these tomes down here, the cover is a carved relief in ivory of a wizard riding a horse. The book is covered in red velvet. But the magic is a spell written on its first page that can be cast twice per day. Second casting has a 1 in 6 chance of reducing intelligence by -1 for a day. And then the drawback is that after casting a spell from this book, there's a 1 in 6 chance the spell will disappear from its pages. So again, easily used for 5th edition or OSR as is, right? So, and this is just a book full of these, and presumably this bundle is all like that, just tons and tons of things on these pages that are reusable. So you'll want to look at some of these other Delver books as well. But I mean, for $8, you're going to get all these inspirational tables, and you can see all the different things that are in here. Like, that is not a normal golem. That is not a normal skeleton. So there's a whole page on that. Wanted posters, found maps, etc. So whatever the topic, you're going to probably find a table that will at least serve as inspiration, if not actual use, and actual use a lot of times as well, right? So love it. Check it out. Delve deep into these pages in Delver, Lost Pages, in the video description links. Give it a click. Next, we have The Goblings, a slow quest creation, a whimsical goblin adventure for $8.97. From Slow Quest and Bodhi H, and the 42 pages for this. And Bodhi H is the author and illustrator, and it's for 5th edition. And it's jam-packed with more goblin goodness than your little green mitts will know what to do with. Explore the world as only freshly spawned goblin can, with over 40 pages of adventure, fully illustrated maps, tokens, easy-to-use reference cards, unique monsters, and illustrated treasure tables. And I should point out, this is just one of, I think, 3 titles that Slow Quest released this week, but we only cover at most 1 title per publisher. So if you like what you're seeing, you might want to check out some of their other stuff as well. So in The Goblings, you'll take on the role of a freshly spawned, mostly formed goblin known in the nest as Goblings. Together with 2 to 4 other goblin friends, you've got to make a gift for your glorious queen. You'll have a short while in the nest to gather information on what the queen might like in a gift. Before you're ready, you'll thrust out into the forest for the night in search of materials, treasures, and all manner of things to create your gifts. Upon returning to the nest, the goblins must present the gift and hope that their research, resourcefulness, and creativity have paid off. So each time it's run, the Queen's tastes are rolled again, meaning that no two playthroughs will ever be the same, sending your goblin players scattering for all sorts of fresh ideas for gifts to present to the slimy, stinky goblin queen. You get 2 large area maps, 4 8x11 battle maps, 30 tokens, a goblin lore booklet, a custom goblin character sheet, 6 pre-gen goblin character sheets. So you don't even have to make them create new goblins. You can use the pre-gens, which, this is kind of an unusual adventure, right? You're playing as goblins instead of normal, humans or elves or whatever, right? And it's for 2 to 5 players. And look at this, beautiful artwork all the way through here, done by the author as well. So what I really like about this is you could do this as just, 1 or 2 sessions where you're playing as goblins and then go back to other, normal adventures, I guess. And if you have a particularly creative group of players, or maybe you have some creatives that you've struggled to get them into D&D, with this really fun artwork, you could use this as a way to get them into the game. Say, look, we're going to play with this fun artwork. You're going to play little goblins. Maybe you have players that are really good at voices, and this will give them a chance to do like goblin voices. I think this is just going to be a lot of fun. And every page is just so beautifully illustrated. So looking inside, you can see hyperlinks to jump to the different chapters. So you get about the adventure outline. Chapter 3 is when you turn over the gift. And then here is where you determine the queen's taste. So the Goblin Queen is quite particular about what she likes and dislikes in a gift. Before running the adventure, follow the instructions below to generate her preferences. The gift presented at the end of the adventure will be judged based on these elements. So, a D10, determining the color, she prefers things that are brown or purple or blue, right? And then shape, they need to be huge or pointy or smooth or bulbous, whatever. And then it needs to have like a heavy property, or it needs to be rare or horrific or translucent. So yeah, you mix those up and roll just, let's say the first line. So it needs to be red, huge, and heavy. That's going to restrict what, she loves the most. And maybe what you bring is both red and huge, but it's not heavy. So it's almost perfect, right? And you can see some previous gifts. So they got these little wheel of whatever that is, this spiky rocking horse, and then some sort of statue with a sword in the stone, maybe. And then throughout the adventure, players can discover clues about the queen's taste. When a clue is found, roll from the clue type to determine the nature of that clue. So reveal something the queen is neutral about. Reveal something the queen dislikes. So it's kind of like Clue, right? You have that deck of cards that are out there, and there's a certain number of suspects and rooms and items. So like that, you eventually reveal, oh, well, it's not Mrs. Peacock because I have the Mrs. Peacock card, right? So in this case, it's not, it doesn't need to be heavy, because that's not one of the ones that was selected, right? So you kind of have to keep track of what was not selected for the taste as well, right? It could be a dislike or revealing something she likes. So I just think this is going to be a lot of fun. I think it's also good for little ones. You want to get some little ones into the game. I would play this. I think it's fun, and I'm not a little one anymore. But, maybe you have some kids you want to play this with as well. I don't know. I think it's fun, and it's whimsical, as the cover says. So you've got to check it out. It's only $8.97 for all this beautiful artwork and story. So look for it under Goblins in the links below and give it a click. Next, we have Guide to the Shadow Plane, Inhabitants of a Shadow Dimension, for use with 5th edition, from Aegis Studios and Travis Legge. And it is really cool. It's $9.95 for 72 pages, and it's going to give you a lot of information on the Shadow Plane. You can add it to any setting. Though it has a unique history and presents unusual approaches to even the most familiar elements of 5th edition, the Shadow Plane is meant to plug into any setting. If a setting already has a plane of shadows or darkness as part of its established canon, the Shadow Plane can easily coexist as a demi-plane or pocket dimension adjacent to the traditional and more well-known plane of shadows. So this is perfect because we just looked at the Kobold Press Shadow Plane book, and to have that and this together, I mean, how much more could you want? You're going to have everything you need for shadow stuff. As I've said, you know, some planes get a lot of attention from Wizards of the Coast. You know, Feywild's gotten a lot of attention. Parts of the Shadowfell have, in the sense that they've covered Ravenloft, but outside of Ravenloft, there isn't a ton of attention from Wizards of the Coast on the plane of Shadow or Shadowfell or Realm of Shadow, you know, Shadow Realm, whatever you want to call it. So having a book like this that's going to give you so much information. I mean, this has 3 playable subraces, 4 subclasses, 18 spells, 11 magic items, 10 NPCs, 8 monsters, and a whole starter adventure, as well as a Young's Shadow Dragon's lair. So having a lair is always good, because you get all the way to the end, you got to come up with your big bad, and then you're like, oh, now I got to invent a whole lair. Well, just use this one. Have it be a Shadow Dragon as the big bad behind your campaign, and then use the lair and tweak it to your liking, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel or start from a blank page every time. So you can see all the cool stuff in here. I mean, the spells, everything from Coax the Frigid Void to Withering Bolt. And you've got the Shadow Draconic Bloodline for the Sorcerer and the Shadow Elf. So really thematic, really ties in so great with the feeling of the darkness of the Shadow Plane. You've got all kinds of NPCs like Shadow Elf assassins and guards. And then, of course, draconic creatures like the Shadow Drake, Wyvern, Pseudo Dragon, Kobold, and then you've got Siege at Terminator Lodge, which is the adventure, and then finally the lair of the Shadow Dragon. So really cool, nice artwork too. I really like that. So you can see some of the races here. You've got the Shadow Elf, it's an Elven subrace, and then subclasses. So right away, Bard College of Shadows, that could be really fun. A whole college devoted to that sort of darkness. And then you've got a half Shadow Dragon template. Let's read a little bit about the Shadow Elf. So you know the Chill Touch cantrip. When you reach 3rd level, you can cast the Suppress Illumination spell once with this trait and regain the ability to do so when you finish a long rest. When you reach 5th level, you can cast Pass Without Trace spell once with this trait and regain the ability to do so when you finish a long rest. You're proficient in stealth, and then of course you have dark vision. So that makes sense. You know, all these things fit within the Shadow Elf. And you got Shadow Dragonkin, and then it says, just like Odysseys and Overlords and Fairhaven in previous years, the Shadow Plane was developed through the release of monthly Patreon exclusive supplements compiled now in this very book. So they've spent a lot of time dealing with the Shadow Plane, coming up with every little nook and cranny of it, you know, for this book. So that means, you know, they've had time to reflect. When you spend a long time as a creator on something, that's an advantage to the reader, because that means that you've had time to ruminate over things and catch more mistakes because you've looked at it again, or you're like, oh, I probably should change this because now that I'm thinking about it, you know, this other thing, right? So we like to spend a long time on the books that we create so that we can do things like that and really, you know, refresh them and make sure they're the best. And so this kind of structure of releasing a little bit through Patreon and then getting that feedback from the Patreons, right, is awesome, because that means you're going to benefit from this final product of having all of that discussion and iteration going on. So really, really cool. And it says Shadow Dragonkin are those dragonborn descended from shadow dragons and other draconic creatures. They are the nobility of the plane of shadow. Each type of shadow dragonkin has a handful of noble families, each of whom work to increase their standing in the eyes of their draconic ancestors. So interesting backstory for a dragonborn, maybe from the shadow plane. And then you get the traits here. So you get the typical ones, which I'll skip over, but then they've got shadow ancestry. You are descended from shadow dragons and their draconic cousins. Choose one type of ancestor from the shadow ancestry table. Your condition immunity, damage resistance, and lineage attack are determined by the ancestor type as shown in the shadow ancestry table. So really cool. You can use your action to expel destructive energy. Your shadow ancestry determines the size, shape, and damage type of expulsion. When you use your lineage attack, each creature in the targeted area must make a saving throw, the type of which is determined by your shadow ancestry. And then a creature takes damage on a failed save and half as much on a successful one, and then it increases at various levels. And then your shadow ancestry is based on whether you're connected to a drake or a dragon or a pseudo-dragon or a wyvern, and then the condition frightened, stunned, petrified, poisoned, or the damage type of necrotic, psychic, piercing, or poison, etc. So really, really cool. I love that there's so many options with the races in here, and then the subclasses. I think, the College of Shadows is going to be pretty fun for sure. And then you get a whole lair. I mean, as I said, this is going to flesh out the shadow plane for you. If you want to combine it with other books to do that, you can. But it seems like, with 72 pages, this is going to be sufficient to really flesh out the shadow plane for you on its own. But I love combining things together. And so I think, all the spells, all the subclasses and monsters and magic items in here can easily be joined with other creations out there and really just have so much at your fingertips to create a really fun, shadowy, dark adventure. So check it out. It's under Guide to the Shadow Plane in the links below. Give it a click. Next we have Inferno, Dante's Guide to Hell. And it's from Acheron Books, and authors Mauro Longo, Marco Bertini, and Two Little Mice. It is for 5th edition, 186 pages. And it's a campaign setting that adapts Dante's Divine Comedy into, a role-playing source book. And this one is basically the player's handbook, and it focuses on the lost ones, living beings forced to enter hell, including 12 brand new subclasses with a 1 to 20 level progression, setting specific rules, and a deep description of the Inferno itself. So they also have some other Inferno stuff down here you can see connected to this, and one of them is the Untold Tales, which is like the Dungeon Master's book. They have ones in Italian and ones in English. So if you're a Dungeon Master, you also want to check out this Untold Tales, so you can bring the setting to life as a Dungeon Master. But this particular book is basically the player's handbook for Inferno. And I mean, I just love this cover. So beautiful. But let's look inside. So you get the Lost One. So you get the archetypes. You have the Beast, the Jester, the Vicar, the Pagan, the Tyrant, and a lot more all the way down to the False Prophet. And then Hell, you have information on life and death in Hell, the Dolorous People, the Dark Forest, the Anti-Inferno, the First Circle, which is Limbo, Second Circle, the Hurricane, all the way up to the Ninth Circle of Cosido, and then beyond Hell, of course. And then some fun introduction stuff, talks about the Divine Comedy, themes and atmospheres of Inferno. So it says, Inferno isn't just a setting, but rather the attempt to create a unique and deeply affecting experience. We ask the players abandon not only hope, but also all preconceived notions. Try approaching this manual with an open heart and mind and a willingness to be surprised. Cast aside the quest for the strongest combinations, the rarest artifacts, and the glory of defeating the strongest enemies. The experience we are offering you, should you choose to play, is more elegant and requires some finesse and commitment. The greatest enemy, after all, will be yourself. So you're going to have some inner conflicts. I mean, look at this stunning artwork here. But you're going to have some inner conflicts that you have to deal with as you go through this journey. So it says Dante Alighieri was not only a poet inspiring generations of writers to come. His Divina Commedia hides much more than what is obvious on the surface. Do not be deceived. These lines and rhymes are not the fruit of art and labor of a single man. Dante was not a lost traveler at all. He was an exile of two worlds, one a mirror of the other, just like you and I. I've spent my youth seeking for answers residing between his lines, and now everything is finally clear. What Dante left us is not a simple allegory, nor a comedy, nor an epic. It is a guide a guide for those who want to reach the dark forest and venture where not even the dead can rest, a guide to hell. So yeah, they're really getting into the lore and the feeling of, Dante's Divine Comedy and bringing it to life. And I love that they've connected it to a book that's, pretty much public domain that you can read and really get into and then go experience it in game form. So really, really fun. And this artwork is just so stunning, and there's a lot of it in this book. So I think just even flipping through and looking at the artwork is going to be fun. So look for it in the links below. It's under Inferno. Give it a click. All right, that was our last new release, but I do want to sneak peek at our exclusive discount for next week. It comes out every Monday at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. We have an exclusive discount that lasts about a week at Splinterverse on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and then of course we talk about it every Friday. But by the time we talk about it, it's been out for a while. So this one is going to be focused on wondrous monsters, exciting themed templates that add new life to familiar characters. So you get 10 monster themes, each containing 3 templates and a lair, 20 monster templates, non-legendary, and then you get 10 separate legendary ones, as well as 10 lairs with a full suite of lair actions, as well as 30 monster stat blocks that showcase these templates. So if you like to homebrew, mix and match, create creatures, or just have a lot of options for lairs even, this is going to be a great title for you. It's normally $4.99, but it's not going to be that price with our discount. I'm not going to tell you what that discount's going to be just yet. You're going to have to stay tuned for our reveal Monday, 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time at Splinterverse everywhere. So make sure you're following us to get these discounts. They last about a week. By the time it's in the video, it's been a few days. So you want to make sure you get in there and get your copy as quickly as you can. Take a break Monday at lunch or whatever at work and just see what our discount is for the week. We don't have a flood of tweets or retweets on our account, so you can quickly find it on Mondays. So I'm excited. This one's really cool. I think super useful for DMs and monster creators out there. I think you're gonna have a blast with this one. So be sure to check it out. It'll be Wondrous Monsters on Monday. Well, thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and like the video for the algorithm. If you can share it with your friends, help others find out about it, that would be great. We love retweets and shares across the platforms. And leave me a comment. I will respond to all comments personally. Please consider supporting all these wonderful creators by clicking the links in the video description. And if you purchase anything after you've clicked one of those links, you're going to help support the channel with a small fee through the affiliate program with DM's Guild and DriveThruRPG. And also, we've got 6 books that you can use to support us, including our latest Swarms of the Multiverse, Feywild Companion, Fizban's Vaulted Draconic Secrets, and 3 others, all listed there in the video description for you to click and take a look at. Or just go to splinterverse.com and look at all of our products and find out more about us or contact us, whatever you want to do. But I really appreciate you watching. If you're a creator out there working on a book, stick with it. You've got this. I know you can do it. I know it's challenging. There's so many interruptions and things that want to pull you away from focusing on getting the book done. But this is something that you can be proud of and that can live on beyond you. So don't let things get in your way. Carve out time, even if it's just an hour a day on your project, and eventually, before you know it, it'll be done. So hang in there, keep creating, and we are here for it. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. I'm grateful to be able to share this with you every single week. So stay tuned for more, and until next time, happy adventuring.